Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Vishmahad Brahmahamsa Parivarkacharya Stadara Sada Shishimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Nanta Koti Vaishnava Ki ISKCON Founder Acharya His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Vrindavan Dham Ki Mayapur Dham Ki Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Tulsi Devi Ki Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Priyatmadanga Book Distribution Ki Prashadam Distribution Ki New Govardhana Ki Go Premanande Hare Hare. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Would anyone like to lend me their torch? My torch is not working on my phone at the moment. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Thank you. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Reading from the Sri Caitanya Caritamrita Adi Leela, Chapter 17, Pastimes of the Lord in His Youth, text 204 to 212. Asika he hindura dhamma bangila nimai. Yekitana pravataila kabo suninai. Asika he hindura dhamma bangila nimai. Yekitana pravataila kabo suninai. Asika he hindura dhamma bangila nimai. Yekitana pravataila kabo shuninai. Asika he hindura dhamma bangila nimai. Yekitana pravataila kabo shuninai. Asika he hindura dhamma bangila nimai. Yekitana pravataila kabo shuninai. Ladies. Asika he hindura dhamma bangila nimai. Yekitana pravataila kabo shuninai. Asi. Coming there. Kahe. They said. Hindura. Of the Hindus. Dhamma. Religious principles. Bangila. Has broken. Nimai. Nimai Pandit. Yea, that, kirtan, congregational chanting, pravataila, has introduced, Kabul, at any time, shuni, we heard, nai, never. Translation by His Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Coming to me, the Hindus complained, Nimai Pandit has broken the Hindu religious principles. He has introduced the Sankirtan system, which we never heard from any scripture. Text 205. Mangala Chandi Visahari Kari Jagarana Tatti Vajjan Richa Gita Yogya Acharana. Translation. When we keep a nighttime vigil to observe religious performances for the worship of Mangala Chandi and Vishahari, playing on musical instruments, dancing and chanting are certainly fitting customs. Text 206. Purvi Baila Chila Nimai Pandita Gaya Hati Asya Chaya Viparita. Nimai Pandit was previously a very good boy, but since he has returned from Gaya, he conducts himself differently. Text 207. Uchakari Gaya Gita Deya Karatali Mridanga Karatala Shabdi Kane Lage Tale. Now he loudly sings all kinds of songs, clapping, playing drums and handbells, and making a tumultuous sound that deafens our ears. Text 208. Na jani ki kana matta hana nachigaya hasi kandi pare ute garagariyaya. We do not know what he eats that makes him become mad, dancing, singing, sometimes laughing, crying, falling down, jumping up and rolling on the ground. Text 209. Nagariyake pagala kaila sada sankitana ratri nidra nahi ai kare jagarana. He has made all the people practically mad by always performing congregational chanting. At night we cannot get any sleep. We are always kept awake. Text 210. Nimani nama chadi ebi bolaya gorahari hindura dhamma nasta kaila pasanda sanchari. Now he has given up his own name, Nimai, and introduced himself by the name Gaurahari. He has spoilt the Hindu religious principles and introduced the irreligion of non-believers. Text 211. Now the Krishnera Kitana Kare Nicha Bada Bada E Papi Navadvipa Haibi Ujjara. Now the lower classes are chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra again and again. For this sinful activity, the entire city of Navadvip will be deserted. Text 212. Hindu Shastre Ishvara Nama Mahamantra Jani Savaloka Sunili Mantrera Viyahaya Hani. According to Hindu scripture, God's name is supposed to be the most powerful hymn. If everyone hears the chanting of the name, the potency of the hymn will be lost. Please repeat. According to Hindu scripture, God's name is supposed to be the most powerful hymn. If everyone hears the chanting of the name, the potency of the hymn will be lost. Purport. In the list of offences in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it is said, Dhamma vrata jaga hutadi sava shubhakriya samyam api pranada. To consider the chanting of the holy name of the Lord equal to the execution of some auspicious religious ceremony is an offence. According to the materialistic point of view, observing a religious ceremony invokes an auspicious atmosphere for the material benefit of the entire world. Materialists therefore manufacture religious principles to live comfortably and without disturbance in executing their material activities. Since they do not believe in the existence of God, they have manufactured the idea that God is impersonal, and that to have some conception of God, one may imagine any form. Thus they respect the many forms of the demigods as different representations or manifestations of the Lord. They are called Bhavishvaravadis, or followers of thousands and thousands of gods. They consider the chanting of the names of the demigods an auspicious activity. Great so-called Swamis have written books saying that one may chant any name, Durga, Kali, Shiva, Krishna, Rama, and so on, because any name is all right to invoke an auspicious atmosphere in society. Thus they are called pasandis, unbelievers or faithful demons. Such pasandis do not know the actual value of the chanting of the holy name of Lord Krishna. Foolishly proud of their material birth as brahmanas and their consequently higher position in the social order, they think of the other classes, namely the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and Sudras, as lower classes. According to them, no one but the Brahmanas can chant the holy name of Krishna, for if others chanted the holy name, its potency would be reduced. They are unaware of the potency of Lord Krishna's name. The Brihan Naradiya Purana recommends Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam Kalo nasteva, nasteva, nasteva kati anyata. For spiritual progress in this age of Kali, there is no alternative to the holy name, the holy name, the holy name of the Lord. The Pasandis do not accept that the potency of the holy name of Krishna is so great that one can be delivered simply by chanting the holy name, although this is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 12.3.51. Kirtanadeva Krishna Sham Muktasanga Param Vijit. Any man from any part of the world who practices chanting of the holy name of Krishna can be liberated and after death go back home, back to Godhead. The rascal Pasandis think that if anyone but a Brahmana chants the holy name, the potency of the holy name is vanquished. According to their judgment, instead of delivering the fallen souls, the potency of the holy name is reduced. Believing in the existence of many gods and considering the chanting of the holy name of Krishna no better than other hymns, these Pasandis do not believe in the words of the Shastra, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. But Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu confirms in his Shikshastika, Kirtaniya Sada Hariya, one must chant the holy name of the Lord always, 24 hours a day. The Pasandis, however, are so fallen and falsely proud of having taken birth in Brahmana families that they think that instead of delivering all the fallen souls, the holy name becomes impotent when constantly chanted by lower class men. Significant in verse 211 are the words Nitya Bada Bada, because anyone can join in the Sankirtan movement, as mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.4.18. Kirata Hunandra Pulinda Pukasha Abhira Sumba Yavanakashadaya. This is a list of the names of Chandalas. The Pasandis say that when these lower class men are allowed to chant, their influence is enhanced. They do not like the idea that others should also develop spiritual qualities because this would curb their false pride in having taken birth in families of the elevated Brahmana caste, with a monopoly on spiritual activities. But despite all protests from the so-called Hindus and members of the Brahmana caste, we are propagating the Krishna consciousness movement all over the world. According to the injunctions of the Shastras and the order of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Thus we are sure that we are delivering many fallen souls, making them bona fide candidates for going back home, back to Godhead. Translation: according to Hindu scripture, God's name is supposed to be the most powerful hymn. If everyone hears the chanting of the name, the potency of the hymn will be lost. Om Jnana Chandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshum Bhatam Jena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha. Thank you. So here we see the so-called Hindus and Brahmanas complaining to the Chandkazi about the Hindus chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and how, there's all lower class people chanting and they're not qualified, only the Brahmanas are qualified. And if everyone hears the chanting of the name, the potency of the hymn will be lost. So these so-called Brahmanas and Hindus, they have so many misconceptions on the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the process of Krishna consciousness. It's because they're not actually following the scriptures properly themselves. Like Prabhupada says that you can't reject some parts of the scriptures and accept others and hope to achieve perfection, like a farmer who has so many hens and he wants the golden egg and he thinks, it's too much botheration to feed the chook, so I'll just chop off the beak and get the golden egg. How's he going to get the golden egg if he chops off the beak? So, and Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Yashastra vidimusricha vajate kamakarata nasasiddham avapnoti nasukam na param gatim. He who discards scriptural injunctions and acts according to his own whims attains neither perfection nor happiness nor the supreme destination. So these so-called followers of the Vedic Shastras so-called, Prabhupada says, because they're in name only. Name only brahmanas, Prabhupada says, even to find a bona fide brahmana in the age of Kali is very, very rare. So they have a tendency to criticize and fault find and only follow certain parts of the Vedic literatures that is agreeable to them, and other parts that they can't understand and they don't agree with, then they criticize. But still, they're getting the benefit of chanting the holy name. The so-called Hindus here and the Muslim soldiers, they were all complaining to the Chandkasi about these Hindus. They're just chanting Hare Krishna all the time. No one can stop them. They're chanting all through the day and night. So Krishna's very tricky. He's the greatest trickster. He can even trick the non-believers, those who are 10% atheists and materialistic people, into getting immense benefit by chanting the holy name. Sankecham pariyasham vastobam helanam evava vaikunthanama grahanam ashishagam haram vidu. In Srimad Bhagavatam it states that even if one chants Hare Krishna jokingly or for musical entertainment or neglectfully or derisively even, one is freed from unlimited sinful reactions and achieves unlimited benefit. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the Yuga Dham. It's the process, the transcendental religious spiritual process for this age of Kali, for the deliverance of all fallen souls. And everyone in Kali Yuga is the most fallen. Lord Chaitanya's Pitita Pavana, the deliverer of the most fallen. So we've been given this very simple process because we don't have any spiritual qualification. Even these so-called brahmanas, even you go to India, there's so many so-called Hindu religious priests and brahmanas. They're not actually following properly. They're following a concocted process, and you'll find that more often than not, they're very addicted to many simple activities. Many brahmanas these days in Kali Yuga are eating meat, taking intoxication, illicit sex, gambling. Because unless one gets the higher taste of Krishna consciousness, parandrisa nivartate, it's impossible to give up the lower taste. Like Srila Prabhupada, I was listening to a lecture last night. He was talking about materialistic people, they're never satisfied by repeated sense enjoyment in this world. One who's intelligent, he thinks that's enough. I've had enough of this taste, I should give it up. But the materialistic person, he's never satisfied, and he goes on repeatedly trying to enjoy essential desires. So Prabhupada talks about a leper who was married to a chaste wife in India. And he was in a very niggardly position. She had to carry him everywhere in a basket. They were very poor. But he had a desire to go to the local prostitute. And there was a famous prostitute called Lokahila. And her cost was like thousands of pieces of diamonds. And so the leper expressed his desire to his wife. And she, being a chaste wife, she wanted to fulfill her husband's desire, so with great difficulty she took him to this prostitute. And the prostitute cooked him a variety of beautiful dishes, and she served some in a golden pot and some in an iron pot. And so she said, "No, can you tell me, is there any difference in the taste?" And he said, "No, the taste is the same." So then she said, why are you coming to me? You have a chaste wife, why are you coming to me? So this is material sense enjoyment, like Prabhupada says, it's like tasting old wine in new bottles. Same taste as there, but it's just a different label. So Prabhupada says, but the materialists, they cannot give this up. Even though they're not satisfied, they're never satisfied. They constantly pursue this material enjoyment again and again and again, their whole life. Even Prabhupada says, even in the old age, Prabhupada said he saw many old men in the 70s and 80s going to nightclubs in Europe and America to, get young girls and enjoy their senses when they practically have no ability to enjoy their senses anymore. But Prabhupada says in this lecture that the real taste is in Krishna consciousness. Anandam Bodhivardhanam, this chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is an ever-increasing ocean of transcendental bliss. Materialistic happiness is like, it's like the water, the mirage in the desert. The animal is he's thirsty, he's dying of thirst, and he's seeing the mirage and he's thinking it's a lake of water, and he's running to get that so-called water, but it's just a mirage. So this is the happiness in the material world. It's false, it's illusory, it's temporary, and it's never satisfying. But the more we engage in chanting Hare Krishna, the process of serving Krishna consciousness, hearing the pastimes of Krishna, hearing about the qualities and activities, names, forms of the Lord, associating with the Lord's devotees, taking prasad and worshipping the deities, hearing the Bhagavatam, Sri Caitanya, Caritamrita, these processes are non-different from Krishna. They're absolute. Like Prabhupada says, in the material world, you can chant Mr. John, but how long can you chant for before you get, after a couple of minutes, you get totally sick of chanting that mundane name. But devotees have been chanting Hare Krishna and performing Krishna conscious activities for 10, 20, 50, 100 years, or lifetimes, and they're always enlivened. It's ever fresh. Krishna consciousness is ever fresh. Never becomes stale and hackneyed. And this chanting of Hare Krishna, which Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu here propagated, the loud chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra for the benefit of all living entities, for the upliftment of human society, the topmost platform of pure love for God, Krishna Prem, reviving our eternal pure love for Krishna. Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu was propagating this chanting of Hare Krishna everywhere with his associates. And this process is, according to many quotations from the Shastra, from Shastra, Guru and Sadhu, our 3-point checking system to understand this philosophy of Krishna consciousness. This chanting of Hare Krishna enables any living entity to completely extricate himself from all material entanglement and material desires and be purified of all sinful activities for millions of births, and promoted even in one short lifetime to perfection of life. As I quoted that verse before in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Yeshastra Vinimusuja, that if we discard these scriptural injunctions, if we don't follow the injunctions of scriptures and our spiritual master, we can attain neither happiness, nor the perfection of life, nor the supreme destination. And we see that devotees who are following this process, they are practically achieving real happiness, real taste. Otherwise, how could we stay in this process for so many years if we're not becoming happy, we're not becoming ecstatic? 24 hours a day, we can be happy. As materialists, they work hard all week long. At some job they hate their boss, and a lot of the time, and they're just working to get some money to enjoy the senses on the weekend. Where do they go? They go to the nightclubs, the pubs, the horse races, the restaurants, But even in those places of enjoyment, they're still not satisfied. So a little bit of mundane pleasure. And Prabhupada says the highest pleasure in the material world is sex life. But it's so temporary and flickering. But that devotees are happy 24 hours a day. We can be, it's possible for any one of us to be ecstatic 24 hours a day. And engaged in Krishna service, which is our eternal birthright. Jasita Krishna Prema Sajja Kavanaya Shravanadi Suchitiri Chitti Karyadaya. That this pure love for Krishna is within the hearts of all living entities. It cannot be taken away. One who hears and chants about Krishna, then naturally he comes to understand everything about Krishna. So like Srila Prabhupada says, the natural position of water is liquid. Sometimes that water is frozen as hard as ice, but that's not its natural state. When the sun comes out, it goes back to its natural state. The natural state of the microphone to emit loud sound. The natural state of the chili is it's very hot, or the sugar it's sweet. If you find the chilies are sweet and the sugar is hot, there's something wrong. So all living entities, even the animals, birds and the bees and the little insects, have this dormant love for Krishna. Just like before we were reading the pastimes of Lord Caitanya, there was a little bug crawling over the book here. How fortunate is that little bug. So this chanting of Hare Krishna, the Yugadam, is a shortcut process given for all living entities to achieve perfection very quickly. Srila Prabhupada says in one purport in Bhagavad Gita that we can be fully Krishna conscious in one moment, or we may not be Krishna conscious after millions of lifetimes. It's only a matter of accepting and understanding the fact that by following this process we can be immediately Krishna conscious. So we should practice being Krishna conscious 24 hours a day. Never forgetting Krishna, always remembering Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada says in another purport, the best way to remember Krishna is to always chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mama nushmara yujita mayapita mano buddhi mame vashat yasham shayaha. Therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. At the same time, carry out your prescribed duty of fighting. With your activities dedicated to me, and your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. Srila Prabhupada gives the example that a housewife, she may sometimes have a paramour, or a husband, may have a paramour, and like a housewife may be doing her duties very nicely at home, so that the husband can't detect that in her mind she's just waiting for the opportunity to meet her paramour. So this is like us in Krishna consciousness. We're externally carrying out all our duties, but internally we're always thinking of the pastimes of Krishna, the forms of Krishna, names, qualities like this. And according to so many Shastric injunctions, we can read in these transcendental literatures given very mercifully by Srila Prabhupada, and by Srila Prabhupada's, in many of Srila Prabhupada's lectures and his teachings, this chanting of Hare Krishna is able to deliver us all the way back to Goloka Vrindavan, the topmost planet in the spiritual world. We can bypass even the heavenly planets in the material world, or in personal liberation, becoming one with Krishna, merging into the Brahmajyoti, and even bypass the Vaikuntha planets and go to the highest planet in the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, because it states that this chanting of Hare Krishna comes from Goloka Vrindavan, Goloka Premadana, Harinama Sankirtana, Ratina Janmilo Kenitai. This chanting of Hare Krishna is directly transported from Goloka Vrindavan. But we're so unfortunate that we do not have any taste for chanting Hare Krishna. But this process is so wonderful, chanting, dancing and feasting. It's a simple process. In previous ages, as Srila Prabhupada has taught us in previous ages, there was much more rigorous processes to achieve enlightenment and love for God. In such a yuga, it was, they lived for up to 100,000 years. They had to meditate for up to 60,000 years. Like they would go to the Himalayas and meditate on God, on Krishna for up to 60,000 years, like Valmiki. Before he composed the Ramayana, he was meditating on the Lord for 60,000 years. This was such a yuga when they lived up to 100,000 years. In Treta Yuga, they lived up to 10,000 years. The process was huge fire sacrifices. They used to perform these elaborate, huge fire sacrifices. The Vedic priests offering tons and tons of gold and ghee and all the Vedic mantras into the fire to invoke the presence of Krishna. And in Dwapara Yuga, where the life expectancy was reduced to 1,000 years, the process was huge, opulent temple worship. But in Kali Yuga, where the age is reduced to 100 years maximum, and we see not many people live to that age, the process is given simply chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Srila Prabhupada, he spread the Hare Krishna movement all around the world simply by widespread chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, dancing, feasting, giving these processes and distributing these transcendental literatures to one and all, to thousands of conditioned souls. And in this way, the Hare Krishna movement has spread all around the world in a very short period of time. In 50 or 60 years, there's hundreds of temples all around the world and tens of thousands or millions of devotees. And it's, of course, many people may try and avoid Krishna consciousness, like when we meet many people in preaching out on the street or even here, people on the farm who come here, they're not so open to hear this philosophy. Where are they this morning? They're not here. There's hundreds of them down there, right? But they're not coming, but that's no loss, because whatever way they're getting in touch with this Krishna consciousness movement is to their eternal benefit, even if they're just taking prasadam, the guaranteed of a human birth in the next life. Even one mouthful of prasadam guarantees one human birth. What to speak of people who are taking prasadam regularly or coming to kirtan regularly. And many people we meet on the street may never come to the temples here, but we're taking the temple out to them in the form of Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution. And many of these people may, try and avoid the devotees when they see them in public, or they may criticize, just like these so-called brahmanas criticizing. But even if they criticize, they're achieving immense benefit, and they're freed from more sins than they could commit in millions of lifetimes. So we can't underestimate the potency of the holy name. It cannot be contaminated by any material vibration. Any material criticism can't contaminate the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Nama Chintamani Krishnash Caitanya Rasa Vigraha Purnasudam Nityam Purnasudam Nityam. I've forgotten the verse. It says that the holy name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna. It's invested with all the potencies of Krishna. It's not a material vibration under the three modes of material nature. It's all powerful, all purifying, all good. And we see that if people stick around devotees and the temples for long enough, eventually they become devotees. We may be slow in Kali Yuga to take up Krishna consciousness, like in the Bhagavatam first canto, Prayanapaya Sasabhya Kalavasmani Yugejana Mandasamanda Mateo Mandabhagya Hyopadra Daha. In this age of Kali, men have but short lives. They are quarrelsome, lazy, misguided, and unlucky, and above all, always disturbed. So many disqualifications. One of them is we're very slow to spiritual understanding. So we may see people coming here, for months and maybe years, and they're not fully embracing Krishna consciousness. But it's only a matter of time, and one day you see them in a dhoti or a sari, and they're coming to the morning program, and they're fully engaged in service, and then they're initiated. How did that happen? That's the potency of this very powerful Krishna consciousness process that Srila Prabhupada's given us. And Srila Prabhupada says anyone, in one purport in Bhagavad Gita, he says anyone who chants at least 16 rounds on his beads and unlimited rounds off his beads is certainly the greatest meditator and yogi by practicing this Krishna consciousness process. So we should constantly be engaged in activities that help us remember Krishna, that help us become purified, that help us get free from material desires and material tendencies. And the 5 most powerful items in devotional service, the most powerful limbs. One is chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Another one is Sadhu Sangha, associating with devotees. Another one is Bhagavat Shravan, hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam, Caitanya and Caritamrita. Another one is Mathura Vas, living in a holy place. And another one is Srimurti Sevaya Shraddhaya, worshipping the deity with great faith and reverence. Because the Lord is personally manifest in all these powerful activities of Krishna consciousness. Some mundane person may think, well, why do I need to go to the temple? God is everywhere. I'll just worship a light bulb, I'll just worship a tree, I'll worship a, naked picture of my girlfriend, whatever. People's, concocting so many forms of worshipping God. But Srila Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad Gita that if you have a letter and you want to post your letter and you want that letter to go to your friend overseas, then you have to put it in an authorised mailbox, either the GPO or authorised mailbox on the street. You can't just nail some box together and put your letter in there and think it's going to go all the way overseas. So similarly, God is everywhere. Krishna is everywhere. He's in every atom. He's in the hearts of all living entities. But that doesn't mean that we're going to make much progress by just worshipping a tree or worshipping the water. But if we worship the authorized forms recommended by the scriptures, like the deity form, the holy name, the transcendental literatures, the devotees, the holy dham, then these are immensely powerful ways to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. And it all begins with chanting and hearing. Shravanam Kirtan, we just had the Shravanam Kirtanam festival. Chanting, hearing and chanting. We hear this philosophy, we hear the chanting of Hare Krishna, and then we actively take up the chanting of Hare Krishna and actively imbibe this philosophy and the process of devotional service into our lives. And we can practically see the benefit. It's not dry theory, it's practically experienced. Like so many so-called religious processes may be very theoretical, but people don't change their hearts. People's hearts don't become purified. There's so many religions out there, thousands of different religions and religious processes. But where is even the so-called brahmanas and priests who are actually becoming purified and free from sinful tendencies? One verse in the Bhagavatam says that especially in India, people perform great austerities, like sometimes in summer they sit out under the blazing sun all day long, or they surround themselves with fires, or in the middle of winter they submerge themselves in freezing cold rivers. Or they may be, strict brahmachari, or, a strict grihasta, vanaprastha sannyas. There's many people, following the different ashrams, especially in India, but they're not Krishna conscious. then this verse in Bhagavatam states that it's very difficult to make advancement by any of these processes. But if one is smeared with the dust of the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas, dedicated to the lotus feet of Guru and Krishna, then one can make quick advancement in Krishna consciousness. So we should, as much as possible, always stick to Krishna consciousness, never give up this process, always remember our past before we came to Krishna consciousness, that we never experienced any satisfaction, any happiness in the material world. We're always in anxiety, always bewildered, always in the bodily concept of life. So we should never go back to that sort of life. And always stay safe in Krishna consciousness by always surrounding ourselves in the association of devotees. We can practice Krishna consciousness in our own houses, but if we don't come to these temple programs set up by Srila Prabhupada, how long can we practice Krishna consciousness by ourselves at home? We may have, nice deity worship at home. We may cook very nice foodstuffs to offer to Krishna, and we may chant the holy names and read the books at home. But without the association of devotees, very easy to fall away from Krishna consciousness. So this is the most powerful thing, and this is the thing that will keep us in Krishna consciousness throughout this whole life and throughout eternity, is this most important thing, associating with devotees and serving the devotees. One stick, easily broken. If you get a bunch of sticks, if you ever try, it's very difficult to break. So the association of devotees is like that bunch of sticks. And it's like also when we're preaching, like when we're going out, say Harinam Sankirtan, book distribution, it's nice going out by yourself, and it has great transcendental effect on the people who we may meet, but imagine the benefit of a whole group of devotees going out together chanting in the streets. Like sometimes we've had big Harinams over the years, like 100, 200 devotees, and like, at the schoolies, so many devotees out there chanting all night long. Or, we used to have, after the Christmas marathon in Sydney, we used to, for about 10 years, between about 1996, Srila Prabhupada said 10th year, and 2006, about 10 years into Juna Swami and B.B. Govinda Maharaj were coming, and we'd have big Harinam Sankirtan parties between Christmas and New Year every day. We'd go to all the suburbs and the city, and we'd wind up with the New Year's Eve Harinam with 100 or so devotees down at Circular Quay, a million people on the foreshore New Year's Eve, and it'd have a huge effect on people. So, strength in numbers. So as much as possible we have to practice and spread Krishna consciousness. Together we're surrounded by so many wonderful devotees. And this will keep us enthused and enlivened and safe in Krishna consciousness. And especially always chant the holy name as much as possible. Just like yesterday, I was driving down from the Sunshine Coast with my family, especially my teenage daughters, they're not so much into Krishna consciousness at this stage. They're just watching their iPads and listening to mundane stuff. And so I was just, as much as possible, trying to chant while I was driving and listen to bhajan in the car. And then we had to pick up my eldest daughter, Vrinda, had to pick up one of her friends who was staying for a sleepover. And she said to Dad, "No, Dad, can you not say Hare Krishna to my friend? And can you turn the bhajan off when my friend hops in the car?" And I said, "Okay." I wasn't very comfortable about doing it, but it's like devotees, it's very difficult to give up chanting and to listening to classes or to listening to, or to reading the books or to engaging in some sort of service. It's like life becomes so boring and tasteless without the process of Krishna consciousness. So I'll finish there. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Do we have another microphone available? While we're waiting for the microphone, we'll read the verse again. According to Hindu scripture, God's name is supposed to be the most powerful hymn. If everyone hears the chanting of the name, the potency of the hymn will be lost. Any questions, comments, realizations? Back to Tom.
With that verse, thank you for the class. It says the potency of the hymn will be lost.
Yep.
Is it contradictory to the purport? Because it says if everyone hears the hymn, the potency will be lost. What is that?
Well, this is just the mundane brahmanas, their speculations on the holy name, you know? They're saying that only the brahmanas can chant Hare Krishna, other classes can't chant it, and if all these other lower classes chant, then the potency will be lost. So this is, they have so many mundane misconceptions.
Okay, so it was some brahmanas that were saying that.
Prabhupada says so-called brahmanas, because they're not actually brahmanas. A true brahmana is a Vaishnava, he's a devotee. And it's like Prabhupada says, like he quotes his spiritual master Bhaktisiddhanta, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who said that you can't taste the honey by licking the outside of the jar. You have to take the lid off and put a spoon in, put it into your mouth, and you can know what the honey tastes like. So people, unless they've taken up the process of Krishna consciousness, they've taken up chanting Hare Krishna and serving Krishna with all their heart, mind and soul, they have no realization of this process. They're just speculating according to their mundane mind and senses. Of course, we as aspiring devotees, we understand that the potency is not lost. The more we chant, the more it increases, right? The more the potency increases, the more there's benefit. Just like when we had the Shravanam Kirtan festival, all day chanting, like 2 or 3 days in a row, how much potency and ecstasy was there, right? It's not lost, it increases more and more. Nandam Buddhivardhanam, ever increasing ocean of transcendental bliss, the more we dive into this process of chanting, dancing and feasting. Anyone else? Any ladies? Any stories or any realizations on... Yes, go for Hare Krishna.
I was just thinking of the restrictions of in the Shishashtama. What do you think about that contradiction?
Well, we have to preach according to time, place, circumstance, where people are at. No, we can't just shove the books down their throat. And we have to give them as much as they can take. Some people, they may not be ready for the books. They're happy to hear the chanting. Maybe they don't like the chanting, but they're happy to come to our restaurants. So we have to be expert in how to give them Krishna consciousness so they're not offended, or they don't think that we're like fanatics. And but at the same time, there's an urgency out there. Like Prabhupada said, it's an urgency in Kali Yuga. It's material world's in a very tumultuous, in Kali Yuga, it's a very tumultuous situation, full of upheavals and disruptions and horrible things happening. So there's a great urgency for the spreading of Krishna consciousness. Like when we go out on Harinam Sankirtan, we don't just walk around and try to ascertain, well, who's qualified to hear the chanting of the holy name. We just give it to everyone freely, and And, we take the risk that someone might be offended or someone might criticise. But even if they criticise, they're still getting benefit because they're chanting Hare Krishna. Oh, those Hare Krishnas, they're like sentimentalists or they're brainwashed, So, yes.
It reminds me of how shockingly potent it is. When I was 7, which would be 1971, there was a Harinam in Melbourne. I was going to the Royal Melbourne Show, and we got out of the car and there was a Harinam there. And I remember thinking, I need to stay away from these people. And there was almost the subliminal message of, it was contradicting the fact that I needed to go to the show, and I was going to get my show bags, I was going to go to rides, I was going to have so much fun, right?
Yeah.
And these people were I could feel they were contradicting that. There's something going on, but you don't always know exactly what it is. I still remember that feeling.
Yeah.
And I've been dragged kicking and screaming ever since.
Yeah, well, you should take advantage of all these big opportunities to reach thousands and thousands of people. These shows, and years ago I was down in Melbourne. There was a U2 concert in the Telstra Stadium, and we set up a book table and had prasadam and Harinam, like in the bridge going over to the stadium. Like thousands and thousands of people coming past getting benefit. And then we all went to the Sunday feast, and then after the Sunday feast we came back to the stadium to get the blowout. And we set up again for the blowout. Sadhu Seva, he was there as well at that time. These big events. We used to also do the Melbourne show, not with Harinam, but book distribution. And sometimes there were 6 or 8 of us all lined up on the same road going around. So people didn't get a book from one devotee, they got a book from the next one. Dandakaranya, he was there. And Melbourne was special. We never had any problem with the security there. Never kicked us out. But Sydney was like cat and mouse. They were always catching us, throwing us out. We sneak back in. We get an exit stamp in case you wanted to leave the show and come back in. So what we do, we'd go there. One devotee would pay. There'd be like 6 or 8 devotees waiting up in the car park. One devotee would pay, get an exit stamp, walk out, go up to where the other devotees were waiting around the trees, and the devotee would go like that to all the devotees, so everyone had a stamp. They all got in for free. And then if the security caught us, they'd walk us to the gate and say, you can't come back in. But they didn't know we had a stamp, so we just like walk around the other side of the show, come back in, keep distributing. Their box of books was hidden somewhere. And then after a while, they worked out that we had this stamp on our wrist, so they made us rub it off, when they kicked us out. So then I used to get one on the wrist, one under here, like this. So if they got that one, then I still had one there. It was a lot of fun doing those big events. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Sri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hare Hare.